Hi, my friends. It's Ananda from Galactic Mystic, and it's been a while since I've done a Synastry video for you guys. I admit I've kind of, you know, been slacking. It is your emails, your messages, your comments that have inspired me to put out some new content for you guys. As a professional astrologer, I do all kinds of astrology, but it's true that one of my favorite things is working with couples and working with synastry. And this is because, at least for me, my relationships with other people, all relationships, not even just romantic or the relationship with my partner, but all relationships are like a spiritual classroom. And I'm really passionate about using these opportunities where we interact with one another in order to grow and mature emotionally and spiritually. So today, I'm going to talk about a challenging aspect in synastry, the Ascendant Square, or Ascendant Square Ascendant. Let's talk about it. Again, I want to mention how much your messages mean to me. I do read and respond to every email I receive, and I do my best to respond to all of your comments that you write on my videos. So keep it up. It means the world to me. I love just talking about this with you guys. I love hearing your stories, and I really care. So there are many astrology and synastry aspects that can challenge a relationship. And the internet and YouTube is full of all kinds of information, particularly on challenging or negative aspects. And so often I'm working with a client and they have spent a good amount of time and done their due diligence online researching certain aspects in their synastry. And sometimes they come to me and they're very concerned. They say, oh my God, my partner's sun is in my 12th house. I read that that means that they're going to hurt me, or that means something terrible. Or, we have this Saturn opposing the moon aspect going on, and I'm destined for this person to oppress me. Where some of those things are true, as always with everything in astrology, I want you to think of it as a spectrum of available experience. Every single aspect can be positive, or rather, every single aspect has a higher and a lower expression or polarity. And even challenging or negative astrology aspects offer a gift and have something positive that can be gleaned from it. Let's see if I can get through this without getting tongue-tied. So the Ascendant Square Ascendant. You never want a relationship that has no negative aspects. You would be bored to death. The Ascendant Square is a spicy one. Now, let me say that sometimes it takes time for certain aspects in your synastry to be really obvious or to show up in a way that you notice. When you're in that infatuation stage, often the things that will annoy you later, you really enjoy or appreciate in that person. It's only later that when the infatuation wears off a little bit and they start to kind of get on your nerves. The Ascendant Square is one of those that can really have you getting annoyed with each other. So imagine that you are at a party and there's loud music and everybody's hanging out and talking. And if you observe the room, what you will be observing most likely is the ascendant of each individual, because that is our social persona. It's not that it's fake or anything like that. It's just part of how we're made to interact with the world around us. It's like how we react socially and interact, but it's also how we react and interact with life. It's our first reaction to something that is new or unfamiliar, or something that happens to us, or a situation, or a person that you've just met. You tend to highlight your ascendant characteristics as first impressions. And so our ascendant sign is usually how other people see us, how they would describe us. And how much of that is actually us when we get down to it varies from person to person, for sure. So the Ascendant Square, it's pretty loud. If you have this in your synastry, you will likely notice it and encounter it, depending on how long you've been together. I always say that by the time you've been with a person for a year, year and a half, you generally know, you've generally seen most of the qualities of that person. There's generally less left to surprise you. So I would say, no doubt, by the time you've been together for a year to 2 years, you will be very aware of this Ascendant Square, if not earlier. So this can create an environment where you and your partner annoy each other, like I said. You have conflicting and different reactions to the world around you. And this annoyance can bring out the lower polarities of the ascendants of each individual. Each person will no doubt think that their reaction or their perspective is the right one, and that the other one is just wrong. And we can invalidate each other. And that's a horrible feeling. To be invalidated by your partner is a terrible feeling. So when I'm talking about a square here, a square in astrology is when it's a 90-degree separation. And there is something that like, say for instance, we're talking about a Virgo rising and a Sagittarius rising. They're square each other, but they're both mutable signs. So they do have something in common. And that something, mutable signs, are constantly changing. Now, these two individuals might be constantly changing in different ways, but they do have that mutable quality in common, which can be, life support for a relationship if you can find those commonalities. So when I'm talking about this square, though, in this particular instance, I'm talking about a square by degree. So say, for instance, your rising sign is at 15 degrees of Virgo, your partner's rising or ascendant rather is, say 17 degrees of Sagittarius. That's a square with a 2-degree orb. So that's going to be felt. This will still be felt if your ascendants are not square exact by degree, but are square by sign. But if it's square by degree, it's definitely going to be more potent, more noticeable, and louder in the relationship. So as individuals, when our ascendant expression is healthy for whatever zodiac sign we're carrying around with us on our rising sign, that's when we're most comfortable in our skin. And when our ascendant is square someone else's ascendant, even that easy, healthy expression can feel like, when you pet a cat backwards, how they can turn around and attack you without any notice at all. It can be that feeling. It's just like, it irks you. It's like, God, you're so annoying. And can cause arguments, lashing out, general frustration, and can even when it's in its most negative, can really have a couple questioning whether they can make it together. So let's imagine we have a gentleman named John. He is a Virgo. He has Virgo on his ascendant, Virgo rising. He's had a total shit day at work. He was overwhelmed all day. He had a million people coming at him with questions and pulling him in a million directions, which is a total Virgo nightmare. And he just is in the worst mood. He's on his way home from work. He has a decent commute, let's say maybe 30 minutes. He spends that 30 minutes as he's driving just replaying every crap thing that happened all day, going over it, getting more annoyed, just overthinking it, which Virgos can do. By the time he gets home, he's just done. He's just so cranky, overwhelmed, feeling like he needs to quit his job, like, nobody can do anything right, and he's just had it. Well, on the other side of the door is his partner Adam, who is a Sagittarius rising, and he is so excited for John to come home. He has been waiting for him all day, and he's super, super excited. Imagine there are, they have dogs or kids that are also really excited for John to come home, and they're all waiting at the door, and it's like chaos, which is pretty fine for Adam. Sagittarians, they don't mind a little chaos, So John walks in and he just feels this barrage, and it feels to him just like it felt at work, where everyone's wanting his attention and he's being pulled in a million directions, and he's already done that all day and he has no juice. So he reacts to his family with coldness and sort of clamped up annoyance. And Adam feels this as rejection. He's like, what the heck? I love you. I'm so happy to see you. Why aren't you happy to see me? So they finally get behind closed doors, and Adam's like, what's wrong? And John goes over his day, every little detail, and just is like focusing on the negative, and it's just negative, 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 negative. And to Adam, this is like, he can't understand this. As a Sagittarius rising, he's generally responds to things with a positive attitude. He sees things in a more general way, which makes it easier to be positive, because sometimes if you overthink the details like a Virgo can, all you see is what's wrong. And so regardless of how each of these people is responding to in their spectrum of availability for their individual zodiac sign ascendant, I hope that made sense. That was a complicated sentence, but it feels off. They can't really relate to each other. Adam says something to John like, well, focus on the positive or blah, blah, blah. And John feels invalidated. So here is the juxtaposition of an ascendant square. 2 points of view that really can't come into cooperation with each other. So what do you do if you have this in your synastry with your partner, with your most significant other? Well, the beauty of astrology is that it gives us knowledge. It makes us conscious of these things. And with consciousness, with conscious awareness, we can learn to respect, acknowledge, and validate other points of view. And so with this relationship as our classroom, there's an opportunity to accept all those different ways that are foreign. And it's so important to recognize the validity in the other point of view. You don't have to understand it. Understanding is not actually required for understanding, respect, and validation of others. So let's say Adam and John learned about astrology. They learned about their Ascendant Square and they developed some skills to navigate this, of course, with their astrologer's help, no doubt. So Adam has learned to simply listen when John comes home. He tries to keep the kids and dogs, from ambushing him when he walks in the door so he can have that time to unpack from his day. And John has learned that Adam's free-spirited nature is a gift to him. And that, this is a funny analogy, but you can imagine John being a person who sleeps in pants, and Adam is a person who walks through the house naked. And so maybe when John used to be shocked or like, oh my God, he's walking through the house naked, you can imagine that maybe he's learned to laugh. Maybe it's bringing out his inner child. And where they may never really understand how each other operates in that way, they can see it happening when they start bristling against each other in social situations. Like maybe Adam thinks that John is too quiet when they go to dinner parties. He learns to accept that in his partner, and they just find harmony because they choose to, because they want to. Now, there are some other things that can help here. Say, for instance, you have this Ascendant Square with your partner, but your sun sign is the same as the sign of your partner's ascendant. You will have an understanding. There are other things that can help too. Astrology is never, every aspect reveals itself somewhere, and so there's a lot of overlapping. But you will no doubt notice the Ascendant Square. And imagine if the part of this that brings us to our spiritual path, if we can do this with our partners, imagine if we can do this with everyone. Imagine a world where we respect each other, even if we don't understand. That's when we can really evolutionize our relationships with everyone, even strangers, even people who are being judged by others. We can acknowledge that I don't understand their way, but they're no doubt operating from how they're made. We're all made a certain way, and I can respect that, and I can validate their experience, even if I don't understand it. So what signs square what signs? I'm just going to tell you real quick in case you don't know. Aries squares Cancer and Capricorn. Taurus squares Leo and Aquarius. Gemini squares Virgo and Pisces. Cancer squares Libra and Aries. Leo squares Scorpio and Taurus. Virgo squares Sag and Gemini. Libra, Capricorn and Cancer. Scorpio, Aquarius and Leo. What am I on? Sag, Pisces and Virgo. Capricorn, Aries, Libra, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius. I hope that this helps, and I hope it was interesting to you. Do you have an Ascendant Square in your synastry with your partner? If you do, I would love to hear about it. How is it going? Did this resonate with you? I really want to know. I have this with my partner, and knowing about it helps for sure. Well, I'll see you guys soon.